Hello everyone, welcome to Dell EMC Networking Tech Talk with OpenManage Network Manager. This is for OMNM 6.5. And today we're going to talk about resources, the resources portlet, device management in OMNM. Okay, so on the resources tab, this is the main area I want to talk about today. You can drive a lot of your work from this particular area to do a lot of different things. And so first I want to talk about the right-click options. You'll see here that you have the ability to, well, new objects. Sometimes you may need a placeholder object, and so you can create a new and create your own placeholder. For example, a Dell EMC switch of some model. Just create it, and it would basically show up in the resource manager here, and maybe later on you want to attach an IP to it, or maybe it's just a device you want standing out there just so you have, can keep track of inventory. But anyway, you can do that with the new option. All devices after they're discovered will have this ability to edit them, and this is where you edit specifics about the what was used during discovery. And so this is some of the information we've collected. You can modify some of this. You'll see that we have the network IP address that was detected. If there's things like host name or managed by host name or things that were set during discovery, they would show up here. Various things under properties that we've collected. And you can, some of those you can set if you want to change it. These will not get overwritten during a resync when we resync devices on a periodic interval. And so then there's the settings. There's information that we collect about from the device. You can add notes if you want to add a note about a device. And then there's custom attributes, which we'll save for a later episode. Generally, you can create these attributes and they'll show up as a row for every device in your inventory, and you can tag certain things with it, information that you may need. That's a more advanced topic. We'll talk about that in another session. Frequently, when you discover a device, if you have issues with the device, you're not sure if you're having connection problems, we want to look at the management interface. And so this is the actual interface that we've created so we can communicate with the device. And you'll see things like SNMP, Telnet, ICMP, HTTP, those kind of things tell us that we've discovered these interfaces and we can communicate with you that way, with the device that way. And so if you don't see, for example, a Telnet here, you won't be able to do things like direct access, or you won't be able to go do actions, which are other topics, but those are command line type things. And if you don't have a command line interface, you can't do that. And so this somewhat would indicate an incorrect discovery if you don't have the intended interfaces here. Generally, those are SNMP and a command line. But you can also have the ICMP interfaces automatically created when we ping it. So when you ping, we know that there is an IP, pingable IP address at that location, and so we preserve a interface for that. And then if you have a web interface, you can also create that at discovery time, and we'll save that in this screen so you can do direct access to the web on that device if you need to. So understanding that those are the interfaces and ways you can communicate with the box through OMNM. Some of these require authentication, and so these are the authentications that are being used by the device. And so you'll see these were created at discovery time in the profile, and it's just telling you what the name of the authentication is that was used, and then the type of that it was. And so kind of gives you some idea of what's there. And these are all logged in the authentication manager under discovery options. So that's the edit option. You can go to the details panel of any device to see a lot more detail, obviously. And so you can see here that all of the information we've collected is shown here. On the left here, you'll see quick actions, where you can actually do a direct access and launch a CLI terminal. You can go direct access to a MIB browser. You can ping the device if you need to, or you can edit the resource if you need to. Go back to that edit screen. But this is just general information on the left here that we've collected. In the middle, you'll see performance indicators. If it's supported by the device, you'll see CPU, memory, and temperature values. If it has powers and supplies and fans, we'll see information here. You see a reference tree where you can basically see the hierarchy of the ports and interfaces and other objects associated to that device. I've zoomed in on the screen a little bit too, just so people could see better on this video, but if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see, again, the authentications associated, and then the monitor status summary. These are the monitors that are currently polling this device. And so we'll talk about more monitors later. But once monitors are turned on, they'll show up here as being a target this device is the target of that monitor. So there's things you can do here as well in terms of just scrolling through and seeing various information about the monitors and the data that's coming in when it was last pulled and that kind of thing. Next tab here is the network tab. Again, this is more network related data. We see here details about ports, interfaces, network details about VLANs, VLANs by port. If there's STP on this, data would show up here, STP data. Associated links. And so at discovery time, we go and we will, if you have LLDP turned on, CDP, those kind of things, we can detect Ethernet links. And so there's other links that can be persisted as well at discovery time, BGP, other layer 3 links, RIP, OSPF, those kind of things. If you've enabled those, you can also see those here as well. Next tab here is alarms. Now this is alarms related just to this device. And so you'll see things, if you're getting alarms from the device, you'll see them here. But also when we do actions within OMNM, anything that happens that we may send up an alarm related to that. For example, you see a backup failure. There's a backup failure here. We're unable to write to the backup file location, and so it tells us the backup failed. And then the full event history is here down below. You can get events on monitors. You'll see on monitors, there's monitor check fails. So as we talk about monitors later, you'll see things like thresholds exceeded, or some bandwidth threshold was exceeded, or some condition, and you'll see those here as well. But you'll see device events as well, like a link down or something like that will show up here. So you can come here and get a quick view of what's happened recently on the box. History is related to our two things, our audit trails. We audit everything, so everything that happens that we execute will show up here. You'll see some backups that showed up here, it looks like, but other things, discovery and ProScan and other things that happen in the system will all show up here in terms of audit trail actions. Execution history is related to actions, which are command line scripts that get sent to the box. If you've created some, we've seeded some, we'll talk about that in the actions demo, but those would show up here of when they were executed and the parameters that they were executed with. And then you can see the latest configurations on here in terms of device configurations that were backed up. So you see here scheduled backup and the versions, and so you can see those here. So you can also dive into these deeper, right-click options to go and view that configuration, edit it, you can assign labels. We'll talk about some of this in more detail in other topics. You can see performance-related parameters. This is primarily around ICMP monitoring, the default monitor. See some data related to this device. Last tab here is maintenance info. So this is where you're going to see things like license warranty. If you want to see, if your device is getting license warranty information, you've opted in for that. You can see entries here that would give you links, if possible, back to Dell. I would say, with the service tag, it would take you back to Dell so you can renew a warranty that's expiring. So you're going to get events that say your license is near expiration, or it's going to expire, or has expired. Those would all show up here. So this is giving you that kind of information. Then you can create maintenance logs if you want to say, something like somebody's going to do some, configure the device at some point, change the configuration, give it some technician name, and then some comments. Save it, and then that becomes a record here that you can report on, and you can actually schedule things to happen here, and they'll show up as events as well. So you'll be alerted when you need to take action or do these maintenance type things. The rest of these we're gonna dive into some more advanced topics. We'll probably spend on some of these more time in other sessions. I'll briefly cover them here. The manage is the ability to set states of a device. If you know a device is going to be down, you can set into a management state of something like a decommissioned or a normal or a suspended, depending on what you want to do. Maybe you're going to get rid of it and you want to decommission it. And so various things will happen, like certain activities won't happen if it's in decommission or suspended. And so suspended is an interesting one to know about, that as your license moves along, and if you start getting into stacking of licenses, or you get some devices expiring, as they expire, they'll go into a suspended mode. You'll be alerted by that on the license manager. On this lower bar, you'll get a message saying your license is going to expire, and you'll have so many devices that are going to be suspended. And so they'll be put in suspended state because your RTM count, your right to manage devices, the number of devices drops down, and so you're exceeding your license, and so they get put into suspended mode. You can trade those out, suspended, for normal if you need to move things around. But anyway, these are just management states. Other things are topology. You can go right to a topology diagram. Actions are where if you have specific actions that are supported, you can right click here. Let me go on a different device here. I'll just click actions. And if there's actions involved, you'll have things here called show, config, and manage. And so various things will show up. That one didn't appear to have any. Let's see if we can find a more interesting one here. Okay, so here you see on this device, we have a bunch of show commands that you could execute on the device to go get information. You simply execute these and it gives you the information right there. Or you can go configure. There's ways to configure things, VLANs, ports, all kinds of things you can configure here. You can search the screen, by the way, too, if you want to look for a certain specific action for that device. You can search for it here and they'll give you just those. And then there's a manage category, basically, that is not really, sometimes it's more diagnostic kind of thing, but there's just various things you can do to go, you know, it's just a classification for the action. And so as you can create your own actions, by the way, when we get to that, and make it show up in either show, configure, manage, depending on what you want to do. But anyway, you can execute those actions through there. Change management, I'm going to talk at a high level, is a way to detect configuration change on your devices. If the config file changes in some way, you can detect that through change determination, or you can create these policies to go look for specific change on devices. We'll talk about that more again in those sessions. Direct access is a way to do a cut through. And so you can do this through a MIB browser. Terminal here will bring up a terminal session to you. It's just like you're on a session here on the command line. You can log in and run commands just as if you were on the device. The difference here between terminal and Java terminal is the older configuration. It does require Java and a few hoops to jump through because of Java security. It will work just as well once you get it configured, depending which one you want to use. You can ping a device here also as well. Event management, if you want to do things like do alarm suppression, if you know it's going down for a while, you want to suppress alarms for some period, you can do that. Start, stop it, schedule suppression, view active suppression, view event history, or resync your alarms if you need to. File management, we'll spend some time on later. You can go and do a backup or a restore from here, or deploy a firmware, or even import configuration. You can view the latest config here, which is another nice option here. Oh, I didn't back that one up yet, so it's not going to show, but had we done that, we would see a configuration. Links, if you want to see links, you click that. Performance, if you want to see specific performance, key metrics, top talkers, key metrics, you can just click that one. You can group your resources. If you wanted to add this to a specific resource group, you could do that. You can also multi-select. Most of the portlets support this. And you can say, create a resource group new, and just say, create a new group, static or dynamic group. We'll spend more time on grouping the group management type functions here, but every portlet supports this kind of thing for grouping. And then you can, again, resync the device. If you've made a change to the device, pull the card out, drop the card in, made some other hardware change, even a configuration change, you can resync it and we'll go get that information again. Support Assist is where you opt in here. We looked at the home page where you have the option to do it globally. You have to accept a EULA, but you do have the option to opt in or opt out individually or by multi-select. And this will send a command with a box to say, hey, start sending data to the Dell server so they can start reading this data from this switch or a group of switches. And then obviously there's a delete of the object, edit custom attributes, view the PDF, view as PDF, or you can share. And this is a collaboration if you wanted to. If you had other users on, you can say share with user, and you say, I want to share this with Bill here, and you want to say, hey, look at this. It could be an alarm, it could be another object within OMNM, but you can basically just share this asset, and he can go look at it, and they'll get a pop-up saying, look at this information kind of thing. So you'd see that down here on your group and colleagues area. Okay, that pretty much wraps up our managed resources portlet. Other items on this page are, if I didn't mention it, we have this context sensitive type. Let me go over to this other screen here if I can use this box here. And you'll notice we have fewer devices here, but you'll see the ports and interfaces. But as I click these, you'll see that it automatically loads the ports and interfaces. So this is a context sensitive option where it's actually listening to the row that's being selected over here, and it's populating these portlets based on that. Gives you an easy way to go and see things related specifically to that context. You can turn that off here simply by clicking the wrench and telling it what to do, either ignore it or do something else. So even on the ports and interfaces, you have a lot of right-click options where you can do similar things, edit, go to details of that particular item. Similar to the managed resource, you can go to topology. Domain access control is a multi-tenant function where you create domains so that people have different views of the product. You can actually have port level actions too, where you can pass in this port information and have an action run on it. That's a very powerful thing to do if you just want to configure a port for a VLAN. You just select the port, tell it to go do the VLAN, and it will select that port and add it to the VLAN you specify. Again, same thing with the event management, same similar type of things at the port level. Look at links related to the port performance related to the port, even traffic flow related to that port configuration-wise, and specific traffic on that port. Same on the interfaces, you have similar options. Down below here, we have the connected devices. There may be devices that you've managed or in management that you have discovered, but they're not actually attached. Some may be attached, and so this would show all connected devices. And so what you see here is remote IPs, remote Macs, and then you can search this here. And so you can click on this little search button here and type in an IP or a Mac that you want to search for, and basically find, if you're having a problem or you know about a certain Mac and you want to find it, simply type it in and the search tab and you'd find it here. So it's an easy way to search for things for IP and Mac if you need to. Okay, that wraps up the resource and device management at a high level. I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next session.